Welcome to the Football Gameplan NFL All-32 show, where we break down every game every week across the NFL. I am David Hassick, and with me, as always, the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt. We are now at the midseason point of the NFL season. It's time to talk superlatives. And while a lot of the talk goes to the MVP, we're going to talk about offensive and defensive players of the year instead. But first, the playoff picture is starting to come into focus for the AFC and the NFC. Right now, who would your 6 picks be to get the 4 automatic spots and the 2 wildcard positions?
I always say in the AFC, you have to start with New England. The Patriots right now are the best team in football, arguably the best team in football. You can make a case for maybe 2 other teams, both on the NFC side. But I think the Patriots would be the number 1 seed. They're going to have a really good season the rest of the way. They have pretty much clinched the division already, and also will do a good job of running the tables on the back end. So I would say the Patriots. Then I would look at Baltimore. That's a team that no one is talking about that's playing really good football. They beat Seattle. They have a really good game this week against a huge matchup against the New England Patriots. I have Baltimore number 2. Number 3, I will go with Indy because of their dominance over the Houston Texans, and they have the better defense than Houston. So I would lean toward them knocking out Houston for the AFC South. 4th seed, which is another division winner, I'm going to go out west to the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think they'll get it together. They'll get Pat Mahomes back. They'll have some success, and they'll get that 4th seed. They'll win the AFC West. But keep an eye on Oakland. And speaking of Oakland, they're not out of the playoff picture yet, but they're a good team. But I will give the 5th spot to Houston. The Texans are a good team. They have one of the best players in the league in Deshaun Watson. They'll get the 5th spot. The 6th spot is where it gets interesting because you can make a case for like 4 teams to get this final spot. But I do like the Bills because they've racked up some quality wins early. They're 5-2. Their defense can help get them a few more, maybe 9, and therefore they'll have enough, I think, to get to the playoffs.
What about on the NFC side? Who you like as your 6 teams there?
Number 1, New Orleans, I think, is the number 1 seed over there in the NFC. You talk about a team that went 5-0 without Drew Brees. Now they get Drew Brees back. This team is going to be real good down the stretch. Green Bay at number 2. I think they win the North. I think they'll edge out Minnesota. Minnesota's a real good team, too. They have a really good record, but I would give the edge to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. 3rd, I'm going to go with the NFC East Dallas Cowboys. I think they'll figure things out. They'll get better as the season goes on. I don't think they'll lose many games, which makes number 4 very interesting because you look at a team out west in Seattle. I think Seattle can win that division. They get San Francisco on the back end twice. San Francisco, they're 7-0. You can't take that away. They've racked up a lot of wins, but I think Seattle's the better team because they can play good defense, they have a better offense, and they have the better quarterback. So I would give the edge division winning to Seattle, but I won't knock San Francisco out of the playoffs. They'll be the 5th seed, and 6th seed, I'll go with Minnesota. I think the Vikings can still figure out a way to run the ball. Kirk Cousins, whether he plays down or up, the running game and the defense will keep them in the mix. So those are my 12 teams for the playoffs.
Let's move down to the offensive and defensive players of the year. Obviously, the MVP we know will go to the best quarterback in the league this year, as it always does. Who's your best offensive player, though, right now at the midway mark, and your defensive player?
It's interesting because you can make a case for Lamar Jackson if they win this week against New England, but I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey and what he has done to keep this Panthers team in the mix for the playoff for a playoff spot. So Christian McCaffrey for offense. Defensively, how about this? How about we look at a rookie and make a case for him being the defensive MVP? And that's Nick Bosa and what he has been able to do. You talk about a guy that has gotten a sack a game, has an interception already, and is making impactful plays, memorable plays. That right there goes a long way in capturing the imagination and the attention of the voters come time for these awards. So I like Bosa right now. I know it's a bit of a risque move saying that he's a rookie, but you can make a case for Shaq Barrett. You can make a case for Aaron Donald always because of his impact. But I would go with Nick Bosa. I like how the young man is playing so far this season.
And I know it's really early to talk about the 2020 draft, but we're going to talk about it anyway because the first mock draft is going up on footballgameplan.com. You can check out the entire mock draft there. I was interested, though, in your top 5 because at number 2, you got Chase Young. Now, a lot of people would say that the Buckeyes star is the number 1 overall player just at any position in this draft. Why do you have him at number 2?
Because I think Miami's in the best possible situation to have its cake and eat it too. They need a lot of help. and we know this because we've covered this NFL season from start to finish and seen what has gone on in Miami. Chase Young is a really good player. I'd be hard-pressed to pass up on him if I'm Cincinnati, but if you're Miami and you have a couple of high first-round picks, you can take a chance in getting the best player overall in the draft in Chase Young, and also get your quarterback, which may end up being a better one out the group of guys that are being mentioned later on in the draft. So we'll see how it plays. But I was gaming the system here with the mock draft, which is why I went with Chase Young first as opposed to going with the quarterback first.
Interesting to take a look at that full mock draft, folks. You should check that out. Let's now go to the Thursday night game this week. We're going to talk about the number 1 and number 2 picks from last year's draft going at it between the Cardinals and the 49ers. Murray versus Bosa. What are the 3 keys to victory for these teams, starting with the Cardinals?
Well, you start with the Cardinals. Number 1, find a running game. Chase Edmonds is nursing a hamstring. They just made the trade for Kenyon Drake, so we'll see how good or how quick he can get up to speed. I think he's tailor-made for this offense. I think him in this offense, with his explosive speed, him coming out of the backfield, him being a dynamic threat in the passing game, can be a big play waiting to happen. So, but they have to find a running game. So we'll know how healthy Chase Edmonds is moving forward, but they do get Kenyon Drake, so that's a big piece. Second, I think it's going to be up to the Cardinals to find a way to play better the red zone offense. That hurt them against New Orleans. It hurt them against Baltimore. In spots throughout the season, they've had their ups and downs inside the red zone. They have to play a lot better. From the 20 to 20, they're doing a great job, but inside the 20, that's where they struggle. Play great red zone defense. Now, the third one has been all offensive keys right here. Third one is essentially protect up front. The good part is you have a mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray, but that offensive line has to win the battle up front against 4 first-round picks up front for the 49ers. If they can't protect, this is all for naught for Arizona.
What about for the 49ers? Undefeated, incredible defense. What are their 3 keys to victory?
Starting with their offense, I think their run game is going to be key. They do a great job of attacking angles with all of that speed. So take advantage of the over-aggressive nature of that Cardinals front 7, and you're going to see a lot of quick traps, a lot of draws, those type plays where they can take advantage and have a big chunk play in a running game. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo has to bring his A game because we haven't seen his A game at all. They've been doing a great job with the run game and defense. They need Jimmy Garoppolo to join the party. Defensively, it's push versus pressure. You can't fly up the field against Kyler Murray. You have to get to where his drop point is and start to condense that pocket. You make things cloudy for him in the pocket, force him to throw from the tackle to tackle box and not give him an escape route or open up a passing window, and that's how you can have success defensively.
Real quick, who wins this game and why?
I like San Francisco. I just think their defense will smother what the passing game will try to do to them. They are great on the back end. Richard Sherman is an excellent corner seal at this point in his career. And on offense, that run game I think will be a problem for Arizona to handle.
When we come back, we'll break down all of the Week 9 action right here on the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show here on the Game Plus Network.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app.
Welcome back to the NFL All-32 show. Let's get right into the Week 9 action, which has several intriguing matchups on offer. 4 teams off this week. The Rams, Saints, Falcons, and Bengals have the bye. Our first game has the Texans looking to achieve some consistency against the Jaguars. How do we see this game playing out?
Well, this one is out there in London, so it's an early start for both teams. I think when you look at Houston, we know about Deshaun Watson and that offense, but this defense has to do a better job of getting pressure now without J.J. Watt. We know Jadeveon Clowney is now in Seattle, so who's going to apply the pressure? Who's going to bring the pass rush? Can it be consistent in them enough for them to get the win? Gardner Minshew has done a great job for this Jaguars football team. They're playing good football right now, and they make themselves into a contender, not only in the division, but also for their final spot in the playoffs. So this is a big game for them, big game for the Texans. But to me, you can't count out Deshaun Watson and what he brings to the table. I think their offense will get the job done. I think this will be a high-scoring affair. I like Houston.
Let's move now to Buffalo, where it will certainly be a defensive affair. The Bills taking on the Redskins. Buffalo's defense continues to be good. The Redskins' offense, not so much. The question is, does Dwayne Haskins get the start this week?
Well, we don't know that, and we don't know if he's going to show up. But what we do know is that Buffalo's offense will help the Redskins play defense because their offense has been ineffective. And that's been the reason why their games have been close. The Bills' defense is dominant. The Redskins' defense can have some success within the front seven. Their secondary is a little bit up and down, but that's going to be an issue for the Bills' offense. So I think we'll see a close game, but I do like the Bills to get the win because of their defense. They're just too strong on that side of the ball. They'll knock out the Redskins.
Next up, a critical game in terms of the wild card picture. The Titans taking on the Panthers. This could be a do-or-die game for playoff lives early in the season here.
Yeah, you have to also give credit to Logan Ryan, who's playing phenomenal football for Tennessee. And you talk about a team in Carolina coming off a bad loss against San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey did his thing, though, but the offense really wasn't effective throughout the course of that game. They have to find that continuity, especially within the passing game. Defensively, Luke Kuechly had an interception there, so he's still showing that he's that leader of that football team. They have a really interesting offensive matchup. Can they stop Derrick Henry in that ground game? I think Carolina can get this game. I know Tennessee's offense has looked better since Ryan Tannehill has gotten into the lineup, but I think this Panthers defense will do a great job in slowing that down and get the victory. 2
wins in a row since Tannehill took over at quarterback. Next up, we move to the Vikings taking on the Chiefs at Arrowhead. This could be a really entertaining game, and without Patrick Mahomes at quarterback for Kansas City.
Yeah, and the good part about it is that last week, a lot of people thought that that game would be a snooze fest, but it turned out to be the best game of the weekend. Inspired play by Matt Moore. More of an indictment on the Chiefs' defense that just couldn't stop Aaron Jones in the passing game. Now they get another explosive back that they have to really worry about in Dalvin Cook, but they do get the Kirk Cousins. Now, you don't know what Kirk Cousins you're going to get, but you do know what Vikings defense you're going to get. You get one that's stout at every level, that's athletic, they're aggressive, they can turn the ball over. I like Minnesota to get the win against Kansas City.
We move now to a game that may be for the #1 pick in the NFL draft, although I'm sure the players won't be thinking that way. The Jets taking on the Dolphins. The Jets have done absolutely nothing despite having a great offseason, apparently. The Dolphins have done nothing, period. The question is there, who steps up in the offense?
Yeah, it's been a fire sale for both of these teams. Kenyon Drake is gone for the Miami Dolphins. Leonard Williams is gone for the New York Jets. So that's 2 starters that are gone. And so it's about, okay, what can we expect from, let's say, the Jets offense? Can they run the football? Le'Veon Bell hasn't been able to be effective for this offense. He's a great leader. He's saying all the right things, but they have to find a way to get him going. I don't think the Dolphins have much in the running game. So this will be a one-dimensional approach for the Jets defense. I think they can beat a one-dimensional offense. I do like Gang Green.
Let's move now to the Bears taking on the Eagles. Chicago's defense has looked suspect the last couple of weeks. The Eagles' offense finally woke up last week. The question is now, which team is going to recover and get another victory?
The Eagles have to continue to run the football. Miles Sanders has 7 of the 10 plays over 30-plus yards for that offense this season. Miles Sanders needs to be your starter. Jordan Howard needs to be your closer. And that allows you to play complementary football on offense, the passing game. They faced a team similar last week in Buffalo and got the win. Chicago has a ton of playmakers, more playmakers than Buffalo, but we don't know what they're going to get from their quarterback each and every week. So with that being said, I do like Philadelphia to knock off Chicago once again, just like they did in the playoffs.
The biggest question is, will Chicago have any momentum to get revenge, as well as Trubisky being a big question mark for this team? They just don't know whether or not he's going to show up week to week.
Yeah, it's sad because you talk about a team in Chicago that has a ton of playmakers. Allen Robinson, Tariq Cohen, David Montgomery, Trey Burton, Anthony Miller, and Taylor Gabriel, Cordero Patterson. It's a ton of playmakers, and they can't figure out how to get offense.
One last game before we go to break here. The Colts taking on the Steelers. Jacoby Brissett will be really tested in this one. The Steelers' defense has been improving every single week. The question is now for the Colts, this is a big game to keep them on top of their division going into the second half of the year.
And it's a great way to knock out a team that's starting to build confidence. You're starting to see Pittsburgh get that confidence. This is a very good defense. They're fast. They're playing like the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that we used to see throughout the course of the tenure of Mike Tomlin. Offensively, maybe hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to get. They still have Juju Smith-Schuster out there playing very good football for them. But you're right, this is a big game for Indianapolis. It's a defensive battle. This will be a low-scoring game, but I can trust Indy and Jacoby Brissett to get the win against Pittsburgh. Very big game, I think, for both teams, but I do like Indy to win this
And
one.
if the Steelers want any hope of catching Baltimore, this is a must-win for them in the Steel City at home. Must-win game for Pittsburgh.
Easily, and we haven't seen Mike Tomlin have a losing season, so expect the turnaround for the Steelers. And this is a big game that could really start to turn some heads out there in the Steel City.
After this short break, we'll be back with more of our later and primetime games for their previews on the Week 9 NFL All-32 show. Stay with us.
Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
Welcome back, fans. Let's get back to the Week 9 predictions. The Lions and the Raiders face off in Oakland. Two rather underrated defense, but should we take these teams seriously as playoff contenders? That's the question.
We should. I think when you look at the defense, that one will get you into the playoffs, and who can run the football, you have to say the Raiders, because they can do so and they can play good defense. They've been in a lot of games this year. So have Detroit. And so this is a very big game, a pivotal game, one that could decide, okay, which one is still in contention, which one knocks themselves out. So I'll look at Oakland as the winner here. I think the Raiders quietly are one of the better stories of this season. We know about how it went down all off season leading up to the Hard Knocks. It was all about, man, they traded away Khalil Mack and they got all these draft picks, or at least they got Antonio Brown. The offense is going to average her. Then you have the Antonio Brown thing go on all throughout the summer, and the Raiders have quietly put together a solid season. I'm impressed with what they've done. Shout out to John Gruden. I think because they can run the football, they'll beat Detroit.
And that last season in Oakland, definitely a driving force for this Raiders football team.
That's a good point, too. That's a real good point.
Let's move on to our next one here. The Bucs taking on the Seahawks. Seattle still somewhat being overlooked. A lot of people talking about the 49ers. The Bucs have the potential to put up a lot of points. They haven't done it the last couple of weeks. They're 2-5. They're pretty much done at this point. Seattle cannot take this game lightly.
They can't, because you still don't know which Jameis Winston will show up. Are you going to get the turnover-prone Winston, or the one that won the Heisman Trophy and that showed tremendous leadership as a rookie for the Bucs? They have tremendous talent on the perimeter. They can throw the football. They can throw deep down the field. They just have to be consistent. I don't like their running game. I do like Seattle's running game, and we know Seattle can pressure the ball. At their second level, they could turn the ball over. So I think Seattle, because they're more of a complete team and they have the better quarterback in this matchup, I like the Seahawks.
And if Seattle wants to become the top team in that division, it's these games that are out of division that they need to win to stay on top. Let's move to the next one here. The Browns taking on the Broncos. The battle of discontent in this one. Nothing's going right for Cleveland. Things are getting worse for the Broncos. Joe Flacco, critical of the play calling at the end of the game. He is now out for next week with an apparent neck injury. We'll see how that comes to pass. Critical game, though, for both teams here.
Talk about stuff that transpired late in this whole week about Joe Flacco, this neck injury, and the Broncos now without a starting quarterback. Brandon Allen is going to start against a Browns defense that has Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, those guys on the back end that can turn the ball over. And the Browns get back Kareem Hunt along with Nick Chubb. I'm all over the Browns in this one. I think the Browns get back on the right track in a big way in a pivotal AFC game that could knock the Broncos out of the playoff contention, because the Broncos quietly is still in the mix out there in the West, but I do like the Browns to win this one.
This is the game you wouldn't have touched in terms of a betting line a couple days ago. Now, all of a sudden, put your money on Cleveland.
How do you hurt your neck after maybe he hurt his neck, but all that snapping of his neck he was doing in that post-game press conference?
Yeah, it might be. It'll be interesting to see how long that injury lasts. Next up, the Packers taking on the Chargers. The Packers look like world beaters right now. Aaron Rodgers, easily an MVP candidate. But we know one thing about the Chargers. They play up to the competition. But is it enough for them to knock off Green Bay?
It's going to have to be enough, because this is a must-win game for Los Angeles. We've seen this team. They're like this generation's version of Wayne Fontes and the Detroit Lions. Back in the 90s, Wayne Fontes was like Rasputin. You couldn't get rid of him. The Lions always turned around and found a way to make a run at the end and get into the playoffs. Here are the Los Angeles Chargers, since Ben, have started off slow, reeled off a lot of good wins, and end up in the playoffs making noise. This is a must-win game. We're going to see trick plays. We're going to see them go for it on fourth down. We're going to see them sell out on blitzes. We're going to see the best Chargers team we've seen all season long. I like Green Bay to win this ball game. Packers is that much better, especially on defense. Their defense has been the story this year. I think the Packers will be able to withstand all of that that's going to come their way from the Chargers. I like Green Bay.
Let's move now to Sunday night, and this is easily the best game of the week. The New England Patriots taking on the Baltimore Ravens. We know one thing about the Patriots and Bill Belichick. He has trouble with mobile quarterbacks. To say Lamar Jackson is a mobile quarterback is like saying water is wet. This is going to be an incredible game. Two very different quarterbacks, two very different styles. Going to be very entertaining.
Yeah, because now you have a defense that predicates itself on pressure and cover zero and blitzing. You cannot and you better not play cover zero against a mobile quarterback, because as soon as you turn your backs out there on the perimeter, it's a foot race because he's going to outrun everyone to the end zone. Also, now you have to sacrifice a spy because you have to keep someone in to watch Lamar Jackson. So now you are not as aggressive, which means the passing game has more time to develop. So I will be interested to see how Bill Belichick devises a game plan against a dynamic mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson. This is not Russell Wilson where he's going to scramble to pick up the first. This is a guy that if he scrambles, he legitimately can go 70 yards for a touchdown. Defensively, we'll learn a lot about the Ravens' adjustments because keep in mind, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for New England. So we'll see some exotic looks coming from Baltimore. They added Marcus Peters, so now they have a ball hawk back there, a guy that already returned dividends by scoring a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks. So very interesting game here. I'm going to take the upset. I like Baltimore to win. The X Factor, Lamar Jackson statement game. This may be the game to help springboard him to the top of the MVP race.
And potentially Peters versus Mohamed Sanu could be a matchup to watch as well.
Yeah, big
the
matchup.
New matchup and the new weapon for the New England Patriots. On to Monday night, a big divisional matchup. Cowboys at the Giants. The Cowboys recovered in their last game. The Giants still struggling somewhat, but this is a must-win game for them because they're not out of this division yet.
They're quietly not out this division, so this is also a must-win game for the Cowboys because they have to keep pace not only from the Giants, but also from the Eagles, who won the previous week against Buffalo. The Cowboys' passing game will be key. I'll be interested to see how Leonard Williams makes an impact, not having to move his stuff just from a few yards away from the Jets locker room to the Giants locker room in the same building, and what type of impact he can make up front, because they're going to need all the defensive line help they can get against Ezekiel Elliott and his Cowboys run game. But in the passing game is where I think they will struggle. Plus, the Cowboys do a great job of applying pressure. We know how Daniel Jones can hold on to the football. Although, I do have an article up on The Athletic that diagrams how the Giants can use Daniel Jones in the run game. So check that out on The Athletic. I hit the whiteboard, talk about that, and draw up some plays for Daniel Jones to run inside the red zone. But I don't see none of that happening. I'd like the Cowboys to win this ballgame.
Don't forget, Leonard Williams, though, has already seen the Cowboys once this season with the Jets in the Jets' only win. So the question is he bringing some notes across the hallway to the Giants' locker room? That will do it for the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show. Don't forget, for all your football knowledge, go to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense, and go to SoundCloud or iTunes, where you can listen to the NFL All-32 podcast with myself, Emery, Troy Anthony, and Alex Marinoni, talking about all the buzz across the NFL. For the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt, I'm David Hassagen. Enjoy all the Week 9 action, and thanks for watching.